Hi everyone, welcome to Ask an Armourer. My name's Kia and today I'm going to be showing you one part of how I would do diagnostics and maintenance on a foil that I am pretty sure is broken, but I don't actually have that much information for. This could be if I'm just trying to do a general look over to make sure that it's in good shape before a tournament, or if it's one that's just been left on my armory bench and I don't know if it's broken or not. As a side note, please don't do this to your armorers. Please make sure to actually leave them a note or tell them in person what might be wrong with the equipment that you leave for them. It makes everyone's lives easier. In this video, I'm going to focus on the visual and physical aspects of inspection. Now, for this, all you're going to need is the blade in question. Personally, I always start at the tip end, work my way down the blade, and end up at the handle end, just to make sure that I have actually looked at every single part and I'm catching all of the possible issues. You can feel free to use this method, or if there's another one that works for you, go ahead and do that one. Also, as a note, I don't fix things immediately as I find them. I tend to wait until after I've looked over the entire blade to make sure that when I do go to do repairs, I am doing everything at once and not having to just keep bouncing back and forth between diagnostics and repairs. For this, if I have an extensive amount of repairs to do, I tend to keep a notebook and pen with me so I can make notes to myself about what I'm doing. This is particularly useful if I'm working on multiple things at once and know I won't be able to get to repairing everything in one day. Now, the first thing to look for is to make sure that the blade is actually complete. If it is snapped anywhere, there's no real repair you can do other than replacing the blade with a new one. I have a video on how to assemble a foil which you can check out, but it's not really a repair so much as just a take it apart, put it back together again. Don't throw out the old pieces though. Make sure that you salvage anything you can from the tip and from the handle, because you can use those for future builds. Once you've confirmed that the blade itself is sound, I turn my attention to the tip. So the very first thing that I do that this blade, if you can see, has already failed is confirm that there actually is still a tip button in the barrel. As you can see, this one, it was in my repair pile for a reason, does not have that, so that's an immediate problem that I will make a note of, that I need to have a replacement tip for this when I go to repair it. But taking a quick look inside, the spring is still there, so if it passes weight, I won't have to worry about replacing that one. Now, the next thing to look at, continuing with the tip button, is to depress it and twist it around and see how it feels. Most of the time it should move smoothly and easily, but really try to pay attention to, does it feel sticky? Does it feel gritty? Is there any sort of resistance either to the up and down movement or the twisting movement? Because anything like that will indicate that either there is dirt and grime built up inside of the barrel that needs to be cleaned out. You can see my video on how to take care of that. Or if the barrel itself has gotten crunched a little bit, either by aggressive fencing, it accidentally got stepped on, there's a variety of ways it could happen, in which case it might need to be reshaped or reamed out if it is strong enough to do so. Be very careful with both of those, as they could cause more harm in the process than fix anything. The next thing that I look at is the tape. Now, I've already gone ahead and removed the tape on this one earlier, but what you want to look for is to make sure the tape is actually in good shape. This is more important for if you're just doing general checkups as opposed to diagnostics and repairs. But take a look at that. As we recall from my video on how a foil works, the tape is a crucial part of the circuit to ensure that there is insulation and you're not grounding yourself out on your opponent's lame. So if the tape is in bad shape, I would always recommend to replace that anyways. But for now, it is removed, and that is what I would recommend that you do, moving on to the next step of the diagnostics. Now, once the blade is clean, there's no more tape on it, I take a look at the screws. So this is just to make sure that they're, one, present, because they could be missing. Make sure that they're present, make sure that they're in good shape, that they haven't gotten crushed or are starting to get stripped. And this is the opportunity that if they look like they're not in really good shape, to remove them and replace them with new ones, just because that will make your life a lot easier in the future. Now, the final part of the tip that I look at is the barrel itself. So the first thing I will look for is to make sure that there are no cracks along the barrel's length. Now typically they would happen right where the barrel meets the foil, as that's the part that sees the most pressure when you're tightening the barrel on. However, again, it can happen anywhere, like it can happen up at the top here if it gets hit particularly hard, again, if it's stepped on, for a whole variety of ways. So just make sure that the barrel isn't cracked and is still generally sound, because then you can continue using it. Unfortunately, if there is any major damage to the barrel, it will probably mean a rewire, as the only way to replace the barrel, it requires breaking the wire inside of it. So we want to make sure that that stays in good shape. Now, once I've looked over everything at the tip and either confirmed that it's in pretty good shape or made note of the things that I need to do to repair it, I move on to the wire in the blade itself. So you're going to want to make sure you have really good light for this so that you can see clearly as best as possible. I also have known people who have magnifying glasses to really ensure that they can see everything for this. 'Tis up to you if you feel like you can see it with or without that. But what you're going to do is just really carefully look at the wire all along its length. And you want to make sure you're looking for areas that the insulation looks like it's been disturbed, or if the wire has actually popped out of the groove at all, or even if the wire itself is broken. But you just want to look very carefully from tip to tang and see if there's anything that you can see that would be an issue with the wire. Now, you're going to be able to tell when you can see something because it'll be a little shinier. You'll be able to see the copper shining through the typically red or blue color of the insulation on the wire, and that will be a pretty good indication that there's something wrong there. Now, it could be really obvious, again, if the wire is fully broken and out of the groove, that tends to be pretty obvious, or it could be really subtle. You might not actually see anything, especially if the insulation break has happened on the underside of the wire or inside the barrel, as an example. So you do get better at spotting it with practice, but just take a look and see if you can find anything. Unfortunately, if you do see anything wrong with the wire, 99% of the time it will mean that it's a rewire, just because the insulation is compromised, the entire circuit is now compromised. There's not really many ways to go about fixing that. So now we're getting down to the handle end. So the first thing that you're going to do is look for the spaghetti wire. You want to make sure that it is still nice and nestled into that groove, that there's only half a centimeter or so of it showing, there's no kinks, there's no bunches, and that it hasn't gotten pulled up into the guard. Like, it's still there and protecting the wire at that point. Any issues with the spaghetti wire tend to be indicative of issues of the wire inside of it, so we really want to make sure that that is in good shape and still protecting the wire that is inside of it. Next, you're going to look inside of the guard. You're going to lift up the pad as best you can and really, again, make sure that that spaghetti wire is in good shape, that it is still coming out of the little notch in the handle so that there's no pinching. You can give a little tug on it to make sure that it's still securely in place and it's not stretching. Again, any stretch will likely indicate that the wire inside is broken, as the spaghetti wire is just rubber and therefore stretchy, but the copper wire inside is not. If the wire is broken in the spaghetti wire, if you're really lucky, it broke off close enough to the connector that you still have enough to cut it back and reconnect it. And if you're not lucky enough, it is too short and it is a rewire, as you now do not have enough wire to complete your foil. So to finish the journey of looking at the wire, I come to the connector. So again, same thing, make sure that the spaghetti wire comes all the way up to the base of the connector so that there's no issues with grounding here. I make sure that the connector is nice and securely fastened, it's not loose, the wire hasn't popped out. So this is a two-prong. If you have the bayonet, it would just be the same inspection, just looking at the little screw on the side where the wire connects, not for the grounded prong. The other things to look for are to make sure that there's no additional wire sticking out from the side of this. If you have too much excess wire sticking out the side, it could inadvertently get bent and touch the other part of the connector and ground out, or conversely the bell guard and ground out. You also want to make sure that your connector is not so bent that it can ground out by touching the bell guard. The two of these are insulated from each other. However, if both ends touch the bell guard, then they become connected and that throws off your circuit. So really just want to make sure that everything is well put together and secure and in good shape at the connector as well. And finally, we come to the handle. And all we really need to do for this is make sure that it is securely attached. If it's a little loose, again, go back and double check the spaghetti wire underneath it, as there is a good chance that a loose handle will have accidentally scraped or pinched the wire inside of it, which could lead to some issues. If not, you just need to take your Allen key and tighten it down. If it's not going, you might need to trim the tang a little bit to make it a better length for the handle, switch out the handle to be something that fits that tang length better, or use some lock washers to insert underneath the nut and make sure that it stays a little bit more securely. So there's how I do a visual check of a foil for either confirming where it is broken or general maintenance before I go to a tournament. As you can see, there's a lot to cover, but I promise you'll get a lot faster at it as you practice, and it'll just kind of become second nature to glance at it. I can do a visual inspection in probably about 30 seconds at this point, just because I know exactly what I'm looking for and all of the possible indicators. So it does get easier, I promise. Plus, all of this information that you're gathering will be very, very valuable for future repairs to make sure that you have covered everything and you're actually making sure that your foil is in as good a shape as possible. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or other topics you'd like me to cover in the future, let me know down below. See you in the next one. Bye.